The eCom Seller Summit was created to prove that with the right tools and training, anyone and everyone can make money in e-commerce. So many people want to try their hand at e-commerce, selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and more, but they're afraid they won't be successful. This summit will show you that there's many ways to do e-commerce, and there are many platforms you can explore, because e-commerce really has no limits. It really can pay your bills, and e-commerce never sleeps. There's nothing like waking up to profits from getting sales all night long. My name is Nicole Whitlock, and this is the eCom Seller Summit. Before we get started, please be sure to take notes. Lusandra Everett is the home biz tax lady and the owner of Tax. Before we get started, please be sure to take notes. Lusandra Everett is the home biz tax lady and the owner of Everett Tax Solutions, which specializes in home business taxes, cryptocurrency, and business entity formation. She is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Home Biz Tax Lady's No-Nonsense Guide to Home Business Management. Lusandra is an enrolled agent, a federally licensed tax practitioner, which is the highest certification awarded by the IRS. Lusandra is also the wife of an Army veteran and a mom of two. Thank you, Lusandra, for sharing your knowledge with us today. And so I want to thank you all for joining us today. We have Miss Lusandra Everett, and she is an amazing lady. She's going to be talking to us about taxes as it pertains to our e-commerce business. What I will tell you is that this is a super popular topic for real. There are a lot of people who hit me up on a regular basis to ask me questions about taxes, and I don't like to make any specific recommendations because I always encourage people to seek the wise counsel of a CPA. But I also, we will share within our own private Facebook group to our participants. We will share with them any new legislation that's been passed or anything that's been in the news, but that does not make us the tax experts of the year. There are people that I have been on this journey for a while, and I'll talk to one expert and then talk to another expert, and they do their taxes slightly differently. So again, we want to encourage you to seek the counsel of a CPA. Some of the things that Lusandra may be talking about may or may not be applicable in your state. I know that she is licensed, across the U.S., but there may be some things that are unique to either your local, legislative branch, your locality, your state, or to your county that we may not know the specifics about. So we're going to be talking about taxes in general. I think you have the opportunity to ask questions. You can ask questions directly in the Zoom, I believe. And let me see. And I think you can ask them live on the Facebook chat. I'll let Lusandra look for the Facebook chat.
Yeah, I'm over there watching too. Okay, great. So let me make sure that I got my whole entire life going on over here.
Yeah, so she's going to be answering questions a little bit. So what we're going to do is start a conversation about e-commerce and taxes. And any products that she may mention, we'll make sure that they're available on her page. After this session is over, that page will probably be updated in about 30 minutes after her session is over. And then you'll be able to get links to any products that she specifically points out. So, Miss Lusandra, the people really don't know that much about you. So just a little bit about your journey and then to what makes you the tax lady to listen to. So,
okay. So thank you so much. So a little bit about me. I am an Army wife and mom of two fabulous little Army brats who were trying to give me drama this morning, mess up my whole day. Wasn't working. I move around if that's my life. That's why I started a virtual tax preparation business. So it doesn't matter where I am, where you are, as long as we got some internet, life is good. I started in the home business industry in 2009. It was a tragic experience, like many people, right?
Yeah, there are some of us that have stories.
Right. And I got stories to go right along with you. But that is what uniquely prepares me to be able to help you, because I'm in the been there, done that club. I'm not telling you what I've heard. I'm telling you what I've experienced. I did find e-commerce in 2013. That was awesome. And it really came to me at a time where I needed to breathe, right? And e-commerce allowed me to breathe until I actually got involved in the tax industry. And e-commerce is what kept my bills paid while I was studying and preparing and all of those things. So I forever preach the gospel of e-commerce. So I sold on Amazon, I sold on eBay. Bonanza didn't work out too well.
Okay.
But like I said, I've been there, I've done that. And so that's why what I'm sharing with you is coming from experience. It's not just from, just out there. I'm not talking theory. I'm talking about things that I've experienced and what I've experienced with my clients.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, our audience is a mix. We have people that are new to the e-commerce space and they don't know what it is that they don't know yet. And so for those people that are new to the journey and they need to, there's several things they need to consider as part of being new to the journey. What are some of the things that you would tell them that they need to do?
Wow. Have a plan. That is, and I talk about, my topic today, and it's really, I sat down and thought about what are the biggest mistakes that will screw you up from day one. And that's what it is. So in my top 5, right?
Okay.
The first one is no business plan, because when you stumble upon e-commerce, you're just like, oh, wow, this is cool. You get that first cha-ching, you're like,
let me try this thing. Oh my God.
Right? I remember I got my first sale when I was in Vegas, y'all. I was on vacation in Vegas when I got my first cha-ching. Okay, I'm like, was that the slot machine? But it's really not having a plan, not having a solid plan of how much you're going to list, how much money you have to invest, and, what kind of time you're going to spend on your business, because I don't care, what you're doing, you're going to need to dedicate time. You're going to need to be willing to screw up, and sometimes you're going to lose money. You'll make money more than you lose money. Okay. If you get the basics right, you're going to make money more often than you lose money, but you still have to have a plan. You still have to set some parameters. You still have to, to say, if you say I'm going to list 10 products a day, then by golly, you don't go to sleep until it's done. So That's the first thing, is to really sit down and be realistic about your time and say, what can I get done consistently in the amount of time that I have? And so it's, no plan, and just really setting a realistic goal based on that plan.
Okay. Now, from a tax standpoint, because what happens is people start in this business. They just get started because somebody told them they can make money on Amazon. So they go to YouTube or join something and buy somebody's course, and they go and list some stuff. They go and create their account on Amazon. They use their social security number, all that stuff. And they get started. Then somebody tells them, oh, well, I don't want to steal your thunder. I don't know what you're going to talk about next.
Well,
there are stories.
Who would do things like that? I don't know.
What would you recommend to those people that are new to the journey as they jumpstart their business when it comes to taxes? What's one of the first things you would tell them?
One of the first things that I would tell you is to get ready to track some things, because those are the things that are going to cost you. And so those are my other 4 where it's really costing people. Okay.
All right, go for it.
So the next one is sales tax. Okay. Now, one of the big things that sent waves through the e-commerce community was the Wayfair decision that happened on June 21st, 2018. Yeah, happy birthday to me. Like, how are you going to have that on my birthday? How are you going to do that to me? But with the Wayfair decision, it said that states have the right to tax goods being sold in their state, even if you're not in their state. And so you hear the term nexus, you having a physical presence in that state. And if you're selling on Amazon, you can have stuff everywhere, right? You can really have stuff everywhere. So within your state, you have to figure out what determines a nexus and all this stuff. Listen, now there are companies out there that do this stuff. I highly recommend you hire the company that does this stuff, okay, to really help you with that. But sales tax is a new thing, and states are still adjusting. But the last thing you want to do is get caught unprepared. So I really encourage you to seek out one of the companies that does this so they can help you get that right. Because believe you me, the states will come after you. They will send you a bill and say, hey, you owe us, and you are legally bound to pay them. So, so that's one thing. It's fairly new because states are still adjusting. But just know that if you're in the e-commerce space, you plan to boss out, hey, and that should be your plan, by the way. But sales tax can be one thing that will just totally sink your business, okay? The next one is not reporting your income properly. So here's what I'm talking about. So we'll use Amazon as an example. So Amazon, you have your selling price, right? And then you got all of Amazon's 800 fees, and then you have what they send you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they got some fees. Okay. So, but what happens is that e-commerce sellers, they tend to report what Amazon sends them and then deduct fees from what Amazon sends them. That's not the right thing to do. What you report is your gross sales. Okay. And so when you get to that 1099K, when you get past that, and 1099K is 200 transactions and $20,000 in transactions. And then you get the 1099K that's sent to you and also sent to the IRS. Now, if you live in Massachusetts and Vermont, you're getting those at $600 because they changed their state laws. And I'm
going to interject for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
That are not selling on Amazon, the 1099K that she's mentioning is specific to creating a seller account on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You would get a 1099 at the end of the year if you're a seller on Amazon, if you meet the numbers that she's referencing. So go ahead.
Right. But that's also if you're selling on eBay or whatever, and you're using PayPal. If you're selling on some of the other sites, use Stripe. Stripe is also considered these are third-party payment sites. That's what they're called. And Amazon considers themselves a third-party payment site. So like I said, Amazon, PayPal, Stripe, Square, all of those payment gateways, $20,000 in transactions, 200 transactions, both of those thresholds, except for Massachusetts and Vermont, which is $600. They don't care how many transactions. They have to get the 1099K issued. But what they report is your gross sales. They don't report what they send you. They don't report what their fees are. They report your gross sales. You have to then deduct their fees from that gross sale amount. So what happens when you get it wrong? Well, when those 1099Ks hit and they don't match, then the IRS is coming to you, then they're auditing you, and they're saying, okay, you are now underreporting your income, and you owe us more money.
Now, I'm hoping one of the things I forgot to say at the beginning of this is take good notes. So I'm going to ask her to repeat that. If anybody needs to run somewhere, get a pencil and paper.
Yes.
Down. Because if you're not doing it right now, you want to start it's March. So you still have time to make corrections for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So especially
if you have not filed your taxes for 2018, you got time to go back and fix this. Okay. So when those third-party payers report, they're reporting their gross amount. They're not reporting any of their fees. So if you're selling on eBay and you're using PayPal, you have eBay fees, whether you're paying for a store or you're paying for, per sale. And then you have PayPal and they have their fees that they deduct. Okay. So it's still, if you're selling it for $20 on eBay, you need to deduct the $2 for the eBay fee, and then the whatever that 3.5% roughly for PayPal, deduct that fee, and then that's your gross your profit. Okay, so not reporting your income correctly is a huge problem in the e-commerce realm, because you're just looking at the money that you're making that's being deposited into your bank account and not the gross sale. And that's what counts. It's the gross sale. I hope that makes sense to everybody. All right.
And if you guys have any questions, again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Put your questions in, because this is a conversation, you guys. Like, I didn't want to come up here and just tell y'all a whole bunch of stuff. I want to really give you some news that you can use. Okay, that's just how I get down, because I am very passionate about what I do. I believe in e-commerce like you would not believe. I totally love e-commerce. And I really want us to be successful, because it makes no sense for you to go out here and make 6 or 7 figures on e-commerce and then send most of your money to the IRS, and then they come back for more because you get it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, taxes outside of, your profit margins, those are the 2 biggest things that are going to be your expenses, is whatever it costs you to get the item. So if you can acquire items that have great profit margins on them, that's great, but don't lose all your money to taxes.
Absolutely.
We're trying to make sure that you
understand
the
biggest expense you'll pay ever.
Yeah.
Taxes, the biggest expense you will pay ever in your life. Okay.
All right. So keep going. I'm sorry.
So the next one where we lose it is mileage. Now, for 2019, the mileage rate is 58.5 cents per mile. So that means for every 2 miles that you drive, you get to deduct $1 and some change from your expenses. But if you don't track the miles, they don't exist. Okay? And so that's why it's good to have a mileage log, right? It's not good to have, it's a must have. And so whether you have, if you're driving a lot, get an app. It's totally worth it. There are lots of apps out there. You find the one that works for you. There are some that have a few free trips and then you have to pay. There are some you have to pay outright. But you want to track your mileage down to the T. Because when you don't, you're leaving money on the table. And in the event that you're audited and they check your miles, because that's where they start. They start with mileage because, number one, they know home business owners don't track them. And number 2, it's the highest deduction in the deductions. It's the most expensive one. So if they can bust you on mileage, think about having to pay back that 58.5 cents per mile.
Right. And a lot of people aren't thinking about mileage. I will say this. If you're doing retail arbitrage, you're doing, shopping for profits is retail arbitrage. Mm-hmm. If you are not doing retail, or maybe you're doing thrifting, maybe you're going to go hunt for books. Maybe you're into books. Maybe you're just going out to do research to see what's happening, what products are in the store so you can place your orders. Maybe you're ordering from China. But if you're physically getting in your car to drive somewhere, to do any level of research, any level of scanning, any level of, I got to drop something off at FedEx, UPS, any of that, I got to go get supplies. Maybe I need supplies. I don't care if you're going to your mailbox, it happens to be a PO box, and you got a catalog coming in that has information that you're going to be ordering supplies from. These are all people are not thinking about this at all. Right. Thinking about mileage at all. And
you really have to be intentional, right? Yes. Because one of the things that I would do is to make sure that when I'm going places, I'm looking at what business am I going to be doing along the way. Okay. Yes. So that there's going to be something that's tax deductible. Be smart about your mileage. Yes. Right. Be smart, and that's exactly what Nicole was saying. It has to have a business purpose. Please do not think you just going to drive around, town like,
Okay.
a sticker on your car that says I'm an Amazon seller, go drive around town, and then that does not make your mileage tax deductible. It has to have a business purpose. So like you said, if you're going to get supplies, if you're going to, go scanning, if you're going hunting, for all of those things, those are all the things I used to do. And I would write everything down. I would always have a receipt or something so that it would remind me of where I had been, like, especially like if you go yard sailing, right? So I had all of those points put in my GPS because I'm not missing my mileage.
There you go.
Right. And so it's that mileage log is what's going to save you from, during an audit, not save you from an audit, during an audit. Nobody can tell you that you will not ever get audited. Nobody can tell you that. But if you've got your documentation, and one of the big things is for your mileage, if you've got that documentation, you're like, okay, cool, here you go. But if you can't provide that documentation, then it didn't happen.
There you go. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have some of the apps are going to be listed on her page after the session is over. And give us about 30 minutes. We'll update the page. You'll have links to some things to consider. You can decide which one is going to work best for you. All right, go ahead. Go to
And so then the last one, which is the biggest one, is tracking your cost of goods sold. That is the biggest thing that I see, that it gives me a stroke when I get somebody's taxes. Like, what is your cost of goods sold? Like, no, you are not Scooby-Doo. You need to know what your cost of goods sold is, because when you don't deduct your cost of goods sold, then you're paying taxes on that money, right?
Yeah.
So if you sell something for $100 and the cost of goods was $50, then you're paying an additional tax on $50 that you don't have to, because you don't have that. You don't know how much you spent. And you just know that is unacceptable. You have receipts for everything. Even if you go to a yard sale and score something, you need to write that down. If you go to a yard sale and get a box of books for $5, write down yard sale address, box of books, $5. Right? So that you have something, so that you know what you spent in order to build, your product base.
There you go. So I want to add to what you just said. And one of the strategies I teach in our training is, because we don't like to give you tax advice. That's what she's here for. But one of the things we do teach is, in addition to tracking your mileage, is that there's apps out there that will also take a picture. You can take a picture of your receipt. I got receipts on my desk. I would reach over and get one, but then you'd see. Anyway, so you can take a picture of the receipt. So one of the strategies I use is when I go do retail arbitrage, I got my app turned on. When I get in the car, you drive to your destination, you go into the store, you buy whatever you buy. And then before I leave the cash register, I take out my pen. I write on the receipt, this is inventory, blah, blah, blah. And I put it up near where the name of the store is and the address of the store. And I write that on the receipt. And I take a big picture of the entire receipt, as much of it as I can get. And I try to make sure it's as clear as possible. So then that way, if for some reason that receipt fades or whatever, all of that entire transaction is there. And then those apps that we're talking about, you can actually upload that receipt to the app, and you have there stored your mileage and the receipt. Now, the other thing that I do with the receipt, in addition to taking the picture right then in the app, is I also email that receipt to myself. Now, what I teach people to do is I teach them to create an email address, and I like Gmail. Gmail is one of my favorites. So I teach them to create an email address that's their name and tax on the end. So mine is NicoleTax@gmail.com. And so every time I take a picture of a receipt with my phone, I email it to myself at NicoleTax@gmail.com. And every time I get an invoice or receipt of something I've ordered online, if I'm doing online arbitrage, I forward it to NicoleTax@gmail.com. And then anytime I download anything from eBay or Amazon or any other platform I'm selling on, my reports, I email it to NicoleTax@gmail.com. Then at the end of each month, what is in that folder? All of my transactions for January are in that folder, and all my transactions for February are in that folder. All my transactions for March are in that folder because I email them real time as I get them to NicoleTax@gmail.com. So I've got two sources. Not only do I have it in the app and it's stored up on the cloud, so then that way, if there's ever anything with the IRS, you can just, hey, here's my account, here's all my mileage, here's my receipts. But I also have a secondary account that they can just take the Gmail account and go look at it. And all of my pictures of all my receipts are in there, whether they be PDFs, whether they be pictures, they're all there.
Yep, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you have the paper, the actual paper, a copy will do. And like she said, I actually teach that to my clients as well. Like, you just create an email specifically for your receipts, and people, like you said, take a picture and email it to yourself. There are a lot of companies now are offering that option at the point of sale.
Yes.
Do you want an email copy of your receipt? Yes, I do. Thank you very much. I'm like, yes, I'd like the print and the email. Thank you.
Yes. So you always have to back up. That way, if anything goes down, something happens, you got to back up. And I have it in two places. So if the IRS comes to audit me, they're not taking my laptop. They got another external source to go and look at my files and say, okay, I could find all of these things. The other thing is it makes it easier for your accountant. Mm-hmm. Just give your accountant access to that. You can give them access either to your app that has all of the mileage and the receipts, or you can give your accountant access to your Gmail account.
And just so you know, we don't want that.
I know, but I'm just saying. It makes it easier. You busy.
No, I say that jokingly, but you know what? But what Nicole is saying is absolutely right. Is that, you want to, as your tax professionals, we don't want to have to go through your receipts. You should be giving us totals. But if something happens though, and you need to produce some paper, that is your saving grace when you're dealing with an audit. It is so much easier to throw away paper that you don't need than to produce the paper that you do. So what she is saying is absolutely right. I will say it again. It is so much easier to throw away paper that you don't need than to produce paper that you do. Because when you get audited, a receipt is the only thing that will substantiate an expense. Not a line item on your credit card, not a line item on your bank statement, an actual receipt. Because that says, it gives the date, time, address, what was bought, all of that information is on that receipt. That is why it is the only thing that will substantiate an expense in an audit. So I had a question that was talking about where to record expenses and what tax forms to use. That's not your job. Okay? Let me be clear about this, because the amount of time that you spend trying to figure out tax stuff, you could have went and sold some stuff. Make it a priority to hire a tax person. Now, one of the things I hear used interchangeably that I really want you to want to clear up as well is accountant and tax person. Sometimes those are two different people. There are accountants who do taxes. There are accountants that don't do taxes. I have accountants as clients because they do accounting, but they don't prepare taxes. I am a tax expert that I can also provide accounting help, right? So the thing is, what is your main service? So I just wanted to clear that up, to say not all accountants prepare taxes, not all taxes know anything about accounting. Okay. But I say that I want to, bring that out because people often ask me, what form do I need for this? What form do I need for that? That's not your job. As a business owner, your job is to make money for your business. And if you're sitting here watching this and saying, I can't afford to hire a tax professional to prepare my taxes, I'm going to tell you to adjust your priority. Because the fact is that You don't know what you don't know. And we do. So, so don't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to know how to do all this stuff. No, that's not your job. There's, I don't mince words about that because, and here's why, because because a lot of times as business owners, we do taxes based on street committee tax advice. You heard you could deduct this. You heard you could deduct that. When all of what you heard is wrong. And then when you go and deduct those things and you get audited, the cost of the cure is way more expensive than you just paying somebody up front. So I don't mince words about that. And I completely believe that. And listen, and let me tell you how I know that. Because see, when I first got started in the home business industry, I had a tax professional. And he was this very thin guy with a voice that was way bigger than his body. And he said to me, "Oh God, you don't know what you're doing." And I felt so small. But when I became a tax professional, like, he was right.
There you go.
I will never tell him he was right, but he was right.
I will never tell him he was right, but he was right. All right then. Okay. Well, and I'm glad that we kind of shared that. So we have a question on the chat. It says, when taking pictures of your receipts with your apps, what happens if you can't get receipt totals in the header, in the photo, in the frame? Is that still
all the pictures? If it takes you 3 pictures to get the whole receipt, get your life. You know where it begins and you know where it ends. You can, like Nicole said, if you email yourself, you put all 3 pictures or whatever it is in that one attachment and you have the receipt.
Yeah.
Just make sure you get it all. I don't care if you need to take 10 pictures, get all your receipt.
Now, I will tell you, sometimes when we go do crazy retail arbitrage shops and we leave with a receipt that's like a halfway, almost as tall as us, what I might come home and do is I might scan it in with meat. Mm-hmm. It'll be a long, long receipt going in. Or if you're going to a liquidation or a clearance or going at a business sale and you literally are walking out of there with box after box after box after box, and you're going to have a pretty, pretty long receipt. So I ended up getting a neat so I could just scan those receipts in if they are like, if it's going to be like 20 pictures for one receipt or 30 pictures.
Yeah.
I get a neat and I scan it. That's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and then the biggest question I get is, how much do I save for taxes? I'm so glad you asked. Okay. So 30% of your profit. Now, most people, like, their heads want to explode when they hear 30% of your profit. But here's the deal. Like we said, taxes is one of the biggest expenses that you will have. Okay. And at the end of the day, it is much easier to be able to write that check than try to deal with the IRS. Okay. So as your business grows, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to have estimated tax payments. Okay. Estimated tax payments, quarterly tax payments, those same thing. Okay. And so once you get there, the first 6 months of the year, you're going to write the most checks to the government because your Q4 is due in January. Your annual tax liability is due on April 15th, and your Q1 is due on April 15th. And then your Q2 estimated tax payments are due in June. So during that first 6 months, you're writing a lot of checks. And so where's that money going to come from if you don't set aside that 30%? So when you sit down and you prepare your taxes, and if you are looking through your expenses, your books on a regular basis, at a minimum, it should be quarterly. At an absolute minimum. You should do it monthly, but at an absolute minimum, it should be quarterly. You should be reviewing your performance to see how you're doing.
So just to kind of reinforce what she's saying, for some sellers, one of the topics that we talk about, again, not a tax professional, but I do tell them the things they need to do to be successful. So we do try to make sure that we help people not to get, not to have problems. You're going to probably file with your state. First, some people decide they're going to set up an LLC or whatever they decide to set up. That's up to you. A lot of people, when they just get into the business, they're just starting. And so they're not really creating anything yet. And so if you want to start off and just have it under your social and sole proprietorship, that's fine. Eventually, at some point, you're going to transition and do something different when it comes to a business structure setup. And I'm not going to give you advice on that. What I will say is that at some point, some of the wholesalers you're working with, they're going to want like a reseller's license, merchant's like whatever it's called in your state. And so that means or it could be a tax exempt, like whatever it is. So in your state, you're going to have that, and it's going to be different in each state. But once you file that, remember this, because I have had this happen. I'm speaking from experience. When you do that, it is going to kickstart the engine with your state. And what I mean by that is your Texas comptroller is going to be looking for you. I'm in Texas, like your comptroller for whatever state. They're going to be looking for you to file quarterlies in the discussion. So if you're just messing around with e-commerce, you're just playing around. You just did it for 2 months. You're not doing it anymore. Just make sure you kept receipts for it, and that's good. Do that. But if this is a long-term strategy and you're doing a long game and you're going to file it, don't go create an account with the state if you're not prepared to file quarterlies. Okay? Do not go create an account with the state if you're not prepared to do quarterly. Because if you don't file your quarterlies, after a period of time, they're going to submit what's called a tax lien on all of your accounts. It's your money because they've been doing estimated taxes for you. So.
Yeah, and what you're saying is absolutely right. And so when it comes down to compliance, you want to take state over federal, okay? I'm glad you brought this up because your state will come for you faster and with sharper teeth than the feds ever will.
Yes, they will.
They will. And what she said, they will put, and these are the people that will, if you have a job, the state will garnish your wages faster than the feds will. Okay. And so, yeah, you want to definitely stay in compliance with your state. And so this is why you pay for consultations, because that is what's specific to you and your situation, because we have 50 different United States and 50 different sets of rules of when to file, when not to file, all of these things. So, in a setting like this, I can only give you general stuff. I can tell you what's federal because that's across the board, but every state has different rules. So that's why you have to pay for a consultation so that you can learn to do what's required for your state. Like I'm in Virginia. I have since learned that I have to list all of my office equipment so they can send me a tax bill. But I didn't buy nothing in your state. It does not matter. It does not matter when and where I bought it. I must tell them when I bought it, how much I paid for it, so they can send me a tax bill. Like, isn't that sweet? Right?
Yeah. So that's one of the big things is just make sure for whatever your state is requirements, when you file for that reseller's license or whatever it's called in your specific state, you're about to kickstart an engine and you need to be prepared to file whatever the state requires. In our case, it's quarterlies. More than likely, it's quarterlies for most of you. And if they don't get it, it is not going to take them long to put a lien on your account. And they can garnish your wages or they'll do your bank account. They did my bank account.
Yeah.
And it was like in 2010 for me because I've been on this journey for a while. So that is a lesson learned.
Yeah. And I want to talk about business structures really quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a question that I get a lot, talking about business structures. So, whoever Val Adamson said it got on late, but moved from sole proprietorship to LLC to S corp, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that. All right. So, one of the things that people get wrong is they say, I'm going to start an LLC because it saves on taxes. That is not true. Okay. So an LLC provides liability protection. If you are a single member LLC, as far as the federal government is concerned, you are still a sole proprietor. If you and somebody goes into a partnership together, you can be a multi-member LLC, but the IRS says you are a partnership. Okay. The flexibility of the LLC is that it allows you to elect corporate treatment, to be taxed as an S Corp or a C Corp. Okay. So starting out as an LLC is okay. Starting out as a sole proprietor is okay, because again, every state has different rules. So you have states that have minimum taxes. So like California, for instance, if you have an LLC, your minimum tax is $800, regardless of how much money you made. So you don't want to go jump off into the business entity abyss until you know all of the rules for your state, all of the requirements for your state. Because one business structure might be great for you if you live in Virginia, and it might not be the right thing for you if you're in California. There's lots of different things that go into deciding what is the best business structure for you. Okay. So, when we're talking about moving from an LLC to an S Corp or a C Corp, when you start getting into S Corps and C Corps, the biggest issue is compliance, because it's the compliance piece that gets people in the most trouble. Okay. When you're talking about S Corp and C Corp, that means you have to be on payroll. So unless you know how to do payroll, which I doubt very seriously that a lot of us do, you need to be able to outsource that. You need to be able to outsource your bookkeeping, because if you're going to be a business owner, you don't have time to do all this stuff. You need to be able to outsource these things, because if you late on those employment taxes, guess what? IRS is coming for you. Okay. Yeah. And we're talking about your own employment taxes, right?
Yeah, employment taxes.
Yeah. So this is why you just don't go off and because you heard you could save on self-employment tax and you start an S Corp or a C Corp. You just don't do it. There's lots of different moving parts into making that decision. And so it's not going to be the same for everybody. You're looking at your big picture. You're looking at what you're earning. You might have a high six-figure earning spouse where you need to be a S Corp or something else right away because you're only adding to a larger tax bill, right? So it's not just you. You're looking at your whole picture, all of your assets. You're looking at your children. You're looking at your spouse. You're looking at your entire tax picture. So it might be, it might behoove Nicole to go over here and be a C Corp while Lusandra needs to be a single member LLC. There's no one answer for everybody. There's no one benchmark to say, okay, this is where you become, an S Corp or a C Corp. There's no one benchmark for anybody because taxes is a big picture thing. It's not just you.
Yeah.
Looking at everything.
And I'd agree with her. There was another question that says, do you call your state comptroller office to get specifics on a reseller's license? Yeah, and they may call it something different in your state. Because we support people all over the U.S., our team, they, different people refer to it slightly different. Different states call it something. But I would start with whoever your state comptroller, your state finance office, and go from there. And that allows you as a reseller to get breaks on purchases that you make. But again, it's going to kickstart that engine that you need to deal with.
Right. The compliance piece to all of this is really important. And, like we talked about sales tax, right? When the Wayfair decision came down, there are a lot of people that are like, holy smokes, like, what is this going to do? But you know what? They were starting with the big people. That's where they're starting. That's not where they're going to stay. Because the technology and, all of that is going to catch up to where it gets down to the mom and pops. We're the mom and pops, right? So even though, a lot of people think, okay, well, it won't happen to me. I'm just making this little bit of money, whatever. It might not be today. It might not even be next year. But when they catch you, and see, the thing you have to understand is that when you don't pay tax, that's fraud. And there's no statute of limitations on fraud. So if they don't catch you for 10 years, it doesn't matter. They're going to go back to the date it was due with what you owed then, and then add penalties and interest.
It's magical. Trust me. So
it's magical because it's compounding interest. Okay.
Yeah.
Who was that said compound interest? Those that understand it, get it. Those that don't pay it.
Yeah. And my story is, for those who don't know, I have 2 special needs kids. So when I started a candy vending business, I want to say in 2007, 2008, and it was 2007. And I had it for many years, and I had filed with the state reseller's license so I could go and buy my candy tax exempt. And the next thing I know, I get an email, or not an email, I got a letter in the mail. I didn't understand it. So I didn't worry about it. Another letter in the mail, didn't worry about it. I went to go take my son for therapy, and I had no access to any of my money. None of it. I couldn't pay rent. Mortgage. I couldn't pay mortgage. I couldn't buy groceries. I couldn't get prescription meds because they had locked down my bank account. I will never forget that day. And I spent 2 days trying to undo the mess that I had created because I didn't understand what I had done. So when she says you don't know what you don't know, trust me. And as a single mom, not getting any help from anybody else, oh, it was horrible. So I learned my lesson, but that was, that happened to me in 2010, a couple of years after. So they will come after you. And the state is faster than the federal government.
And there was another very prominent 7-figure earner that was very vocal about his situation.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he talked about how the federal government went into his PayPal account and snatched all the $90,000 he had in that PayPal account. So when I tell you the IRS is the longest arm of the law, I'm not playing. Okay. Yeah. And the thing about also is that, when you're dealing with the IRS, understand they're not trying to put you in jail. They're just trying to get you to pay your taxes. And so a letter from the IRS, read the letter, see what it's asking you to do. And then, and I just had a new client that I had. He's like, hey, and he brings me the letter. The letter was dated for May. And you just come to me and it's March.
Of the next year.
Last May, and it's March. And so I was like, listen, you need to call them, let them know that you have hired help. And when you call them and say, hey, I need time to work on this, because those letters give you a date. Yeah. All right. Those dates are not there for their health. That means they're going to take the next step. Every time you get a letter, there's a deadline. And if you don't respond by that deadline, they're taking the next step. And so when you have an issue, you definitely need to stay in touch with them to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what I'm doing. And they will work with you. They really will. But if you just don't respond, just don't do anything, then that forces them to enforce the law.
There you go.
So you have to do that and then get help, really.
Get some help. So I know we don't have much time left. We only have about 10 minutes. So
this has gone by fast.
I know. So if there were other questions, you want to go ahead and post them in the room, but I do want to just kind of recap a little bit of what she said really quick because we only have 10 minutes. So I know we talked about the tracking. That's for one, the mileage, make sure that you're tracking. First of all, make sure you have a game plan for your business.
Yes.
Something you're just going to mess around with. At least keep track of what you're doing if you think this is just something you want to try. Not everybody stays in e-commerce. So if I'm going to try this Amazon thing for 2 months, make sure that you keep, you signed up for your Amazon membership. Just keep track of everything that you bought, everything that you acquired. If you bought inventory, whatever it happens to be, keep track of everything. So figure out your game plan, what you're going to do. If you're going to do the long game, I refer to it as the long game, which is, this is what I do. I don't do anything else. I do this. So if you're going to do the long game, then you want to have that strategy for that. So create a tracking system. Make sure you're tracking your mileage, whatever method you're using to track your mileage. I forgot, what was the other one? 3?
Oh, I got you.
Go ahead.
Okay, sales tax. Okay, get help with the sales tax. Don't do that yourself. Make sure you report your income properly. You're tracking gross sales, and then you're deducting all of the fees after that, any type of seller's fees on your subscriptions. If you have, if you pay subscription fees for your different types of e-commerce platforms, those are tax deductible as well. Okay. We talked about tracking your mileage and your cost of goods sold. Please, please, oh, please get that together so that you're not paying. Because see, here's the deal. So when you don't track your mileage, you're giving up 58.5 cents per mile for a deduction. When you don't track your cost of goods sold, you're paying taxes on money that you should not be paying taxes on. If you're not paying sales tax and then you get busted, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be paying the sales tax plus fines and penalties, right? And then if you don't have a plan, you're just going off all willy-nilly. Willy-nilly does not get you successful in e-commerce. It just does not. All right. You gotta have a plan, And so listen, I have to say this, I'm about to faint right now because I saw Sean Mayo just pop on here. And let me tell you the blessing of e-commerce in my life. And I hope I do this without crying. Okay. So we were getting ready to move yet again. Okay, I'm an Army wife. When I tell y'all I move about every 18 years to 2 months, I'm not kidding. So during one of our moves, I was really having a meltdown moment. I need to get stuff in my store and I got to move. I don't know what to do. I don't have time to scan. I don't have time to do this. And so I'm in this group and I'm like, Sean, what do I sell? He's like, look in your pantry. I'm like, I don't have time to look in my pantry. I am freaking out. And then I find the lists that he sells. And that was the biggest savior for me because I needed to know what could I go buy right now and get it packed up and sent right now so I could have some money coming in while I was moving.
Yeah. So you got a new destination.
That saved my life at that point because I needed the money. I was trying to study to become a tax professional. That cost money. Yeah. And I was trying to move again. It was tragic. I was a tragic, and you saved me. You saved my sanity.
Well, Sean is speaking on Thursday, so make sure.
I'm going to be here.
Sean is amazing. I met him. A lot of my team members have been following him, and I'm so glad that he is part of the summit. And I pray that he'll be part of future summits. But Sean is awesome to talk to. So stay tuned for Sean's session on Thursday. We got all these questions coming.
Okay, I see another question. It says, what happens if you sell something you are going to sell that you bought years ago and never used? How do you account for the cost of that item with no receipt? Okay, you can go Google how much stuff costs. You can go Google that and see how much it costs. Even old stuff, I've done that. Yeah. So if you don't know, then you paid something for it.
Hold on, just 1 second. One of the things that you said early on is you used the term nexus. I think you need to explain to people when you're talking about sales tax what nexus means, and then we'll come back to the rest of the question.
Okay, so nexus is physical presence. Okay, so it's physical presence of your business and also physical presence of your stuff. And if you happen to have someone working for you as an employee in another state, that can be considered nexus. So I used Amazon as an example because Amazon can have your stuff all over the United States. When I lived in California, they sent my stuff to Richmond, Virginia. I moved to Virginia, they send my stuff to California. I kid you not. And then they started sending my stuff to New Jersey. And then they started sending my stuff to South Carolina. I'm like, bruh, can we pick something? Yeah. I live in Virginia. We can't send my stuff right down the road to Virginia.
Yeah. There's a sales tax. She's talking about the sales.
Right. And so when you are talking about owing state sales tax, they're looking at what do you have in their state? Like, how much are you selling in their state? And states are still writing the laws, you guys, because the Wayfair decision, now they said that the states can do this, states are still writing laws. So this is going to be a living, moving thing. And so it's something that I'm watching because, like I said, e-commerce is near and dear to my heart. I ain't a 7-figure e-commerce boss out person, but I'm still in there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. One of the questions is you guys ask about the apps. We will make sure that on her page is still going to be accessible until midnight. So if you'll give us about 30 minutes to an hour after we get off this session, we have to download this video, upload it to her page, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll make sure that the app links are on there so that if you want to take advantage of any of the apps that track mileage or you can scan receipts with or anything like that for tracking. And also, like there's another, there's a tool, tax reporting tool, I think called Tax Jar. So we'll make sure we have links to all of those on her page. They'll be accessible to you. So we're going to fly through this. We got 3 minutes. So can you hit this one? I'm going to say the best way to locate your tax professional who knows this eCom specialty. Answer?
Okay. Well, I can help you, but but you know what? The best way is to really talk to a tax professional. The time to really look for a tax professional is not during tax season.
Yeah, that's true.
It is like during the summer and through December. It is not during tax season because at that point we're on tax preparation, that our heads are down and we're doing business. And so if you really want to find a tax professional, you want to take the time to talk to them, ask them what they do. Like, because like a lot of older tax professionals that have been in the business for a while, they don't even want to fool with e-commerce.
Yeah. And this is what I will say. I will give a plug for Lusandra. So feel free to reach out to her. She'll also have a link on her page. You can reach out to her. But the other thing is that like our local meetups here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, at least once a year, one of our biggest meetups, they will have an e-commerce tax professional come to that meetup. And so, again, if it's a tax professional that's been coming to a meetup for year after year, and a lot of the people in that particular meetup recommend that person, they've been using them, they haven't, they feel like they're getting the support that they need for their state, their county, their, city requirements, then that may be a good way to do that. And if there isn't a meetup, that may be an opportunity for you to create a meetup and then start engaging CPAs in your area. And maybe you can get a following and we'll go from there. There's a lot of things that could happen there. The next one says, know that you could do that? I don't know what you're talking about. And then say, okay, I use Everlance and it allows me to categorize my miles. I put notes in there. Okay, thanks for that. And then a question about the same app. Okay, we'll cover that. And there you go. I think we hit them up. Go check Facebook and let's go see what questions we had there.
Okay, somebody said tax jar is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I'm flying through them. I'm sorry, guys.
Renata said save 30% to cover yourself, but don't leave deduction money on the table. Amen, Renata.
Save 30%. And I did want to just say something about that because it's almost time. A lot of people, when they look at profit margins, when you're looking at that profit margin on your seller app, when you pick it up and you're scanning something, or if you're not scanning, if you're doing online arbitrage or whatever the tool is that you're using to figure out, am I going to make money off of this item? Always make sure you back into that 30%. Some people strategically put it in other places inside the app so it automatically calculates it. They feel like they get their real, what their real profit is going to be. If it's something that you're only going to get like a 10% profit on it, and then you got to pay, you got to calculate 30% tax, maybe say, or it's, I get a 2% profit and I got 30% tax. If the math doesn't work, the math doesn't work. Sometimes you have to walk away. So with that being said, Lusandra, I thank you for taking the time today. We did speed through that. I apologize for about the first 5 minutes of us trying to figure out how to integrate Zoom with Facebook. Not my gift. Anyway.
But it is awesome. This is an awesome event, and I am excited to be a part of it. I will be checking in and taking notes, you guys, because I still want to boss out on e-commerce too. So I'm going to be right here. I just happen to know the tax part. All of these fantastic people that are going to be here. Are you kidding me? What? Cool.
Yeah. And I'm excited about all the people that are going to be speaking too. So I thank you all for taking the time to come out and listen to Lusandra's session. I thank Lusandra for speaking and for sharing her knowledge. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. Hopefully we got all the questions answered, and we will be uploading this video for the replay. Thank you again for attending the eCom Seller Summit.